issue would come up quite a bit in law school, as you can imagine. In a classroom of several hundred, I would raise my hand, share a little as to how I was conceived, and explain to them the truth that whenever you identify yourself as being pro-choice, or whenever you make that exception for rape, that what that really translates into is you being able to stand before me, look at me in the eye, and say to me, I think that your mother should have been able to abort you. You know, that's a pretty powerful statement. And I would never say anything like that to someone. I would never say to someone, if I had my way, you'd be dead right now. But that is the reality with which I live. It's like describe for me how it's not. It's not like people say, oh, I'm pro-choice, except for that little window of opportunity in 1968, 69, so that you, Rebecca, could have been born. No, this is the reality of it, and I can tell you that it hurts, and it's mean. But I know that people don't put a face to this issue. For most, it's just a concept. Quick cliche, and they sweep under the rug and forget about it. And I do hope that I can help to put a face, a voice, a story to this issue. On my website, I also have dozens of life-affirming stories of other people who were conceived in rape and incest, and stories of women who became pregnant by rape. And a couple are here tonight. And I hope that you will look at those stories and share this with others, because people do need help putting a face to this issue. And I find that it's pretty easy to change people's minds, but they've just never really thought about it from my perspective. I even had one guy telling me when I sat on a PAC committee for Right to Life in Michigan years ago, and he started, unlike what he wrote down on paper, he starts waffling and talking about exceptions, and we let him go and let him run with it, and then when he was done, they all look at me and like, well, and I share my story, and he looks at me and goes, well, I never really thought about a story like yours, and I never met somebody like you, and it's almost kind of not fair that I've never met somebody like you. You know, you should be out there speaking, and I'm like, okay, I'm trying, you know. Anyhow, and then I would also have people say to me, well, I'm not saying that I think that your mother should have aborted you. I'm just saying I think it should have been her choice. Yeah, but her choice was to abort me. Well, you don't really know that. Well, no, I do know that. Well, how can you really know something like that? Because she told me. Well, maybe she might not have. But she said she would have, and it's like, wait a second. This thing that you say you believe in, why all of a sudden now are you so uncomfortable standing here before me that you now have to create this fiction in your mind that maybe she might not have in order to try to absolve yourself of any sense of responsibility? The fact is that I am alive today because of pro-life advocates who, without even knowing of my exact existence, recognized that mine was a life worth saving. And they made sure that abortion was illegal in Michigan, even in cases of rape. 100% pro-life, no exceptions, no comment.
Yep.
They are my heroes, and I owe my life to them. My birth mother did not choose life for me. If your birth mother chose, your mom chose life for you, how nice for you, but mine did not. She chose abortion for me. But these pro-life advocates chose life for me. Legality matters. And that is why I in turn do the same for others. My life was spared for a purpose. Yeah. And then I'd have people say, well, if you had been aborted, you wouldn't be here today, and you wouldn't know the difference anyway, so what does it matter? And believe it or not, some of the top abortion philosophers use that same kind of argument, that the fetus never knows what hits them, so there's no such fetus to miss their lives. Like, I guess as long as you stab someone in the back while they're sleeping, well then it's okay, because they don't know what hits them. And I'd explain to these people how their same logic would justify me killing you today, because because you would be here tomorrow and you would know the difference anyway, so what did it matter? And they just stand there with their jaws dropped like, gee, it's amazing what even just a little bit of logic can do when you really think this thing through like we were supposed to be doing in law school. And what we're really talking about. That there are lives who are not here today because they were aborted. And it's like the old saying, if a tree falls in the forest and no one's around to hear it, does it make a noise? Well, duh. Yeah. And if a baby is aborted and no one else is around to know about it, does it matter? And the answer is, yeah, their lives matter. My life matters. Your lives matter, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise. The world is a different place because it was illegal for my birth mother to abort me back then. Your lives are different because she couldn't legally abort me because you're sitting here listening to me tonight. But you know you don't have to have an impact on audiences for your life to matter. And there is something that we're all missing here tonight because of the generations now who have been aborted, and it matters. And then I'd have people just try to summarily blow me off and say, oh, well, you were lucky. Oh, wait a second. This has nothing to do with luck. This has to do with decisions that were made, choices that we all make every day, whether we get involved, how we vote. And don't tell me that our brothers and sisters who are being aborted every day are somehow unlucky. What a cop-out. My birth mother went to 2 back-alley abortionists, and I was almost aborted. For the first, she said it was the typical back-alley conditions that you hear about as to why she should have been able to safely and legally abort me. She said there was blood and dirt on the floor and on the tables. And those back-alley conditions and the fact that it was illegal caused her to back out, as it did with most women. And then she got hooked up with a more expensive abortionist, once again through the rape counselor that the police had referred her to. She said there were no pregnancy centers back then, but if there had been, she would have gone. And this time, she was to meet someone at night by the Detroit Institute of Arts. Someone would approach her, say her name, blindfold her, put her in the back seat of a car, then take her and abort me, then blindfold her down and drop her back off. And you know what I think is just so pathetic? Is that I know that there are an awful lot of people out there who would hear me describe those conditions, and their response would just be, oh, like, it's just so awful that your birth mother should have had to have gone through that in order to have been able to abort you. Like, that's compassionate? Because understand that they think that they're being compassionate. But that's pretty cold-hearted from where I stand, don't you think? Because that is my life that they're so callously talking about. She's okay, life went on for her, but I would have been killed through this brutal abortion. And they talk so much about how they care about women. Well, I'm a woman, and they could care less about me. What good is my right to anything if I don't have my right to life? Well, I've had, again, well-meaning Christians say to me, let me finish what happened there. So for the second abortionist, she was prepared to go through with it. My aunt was to drive her, and she spoke with this abortion doctor over the phone and expressed concern for her safety. He called her stupid, and she said, okay. She's like, all right, never mind, forget it, you know. And then he went on to swear at her profusely, and then she finally just hung up the phone on him. He called her back the next day to try to once again talk her into allowing him to take my life. And the same kind of conversation took place. I cannot even tell you what it feels like to know that somebody wanted to take my life so badly that he would even call back the next day. You know, for some people, their near-death experience is waking up out of a coma to find out that they were almost killed in an automobile accident. For me, this is my near-death experience. And the fact that I was younger doesn't make it any less real or any less significant. I wasn't lucky, I was protected. Again, a lot of well-meaning Christians would say, oh, well, you see, God really meant for you to be here. And I am so thankful that my life was spared. But I believe that every unborn child should be given that same opportunity. And it's not like I can stand up here and say, oh, well, at least my life was spared. I deserved it. Look what I've done with my life. And millions of others didn't. I can't do that. Can you? I know the audience I'm speaking to, but you never know with some of you. Can you just sit there and say, oh, well, at least I was wanted? Or at least I'm alive? Or just whatever? My life was spared for a purpose. I was so frustrated when people would say things like, well, I don't believe in God, I don't believe in the Bible, so like, I'm pro-choice. As if there's no other rational justification for the pro-life position. So I wrote a 43-page essay, The Right of the Unborn Child Not to Be Unjustly Killed, the Philosophy of Rights approach. I took all the top abortion philosophers, found their arguments so that it showed the clear error in their logic. It's a very sound document, love to challenge anybody to it. If you Google philosophical abortion essay, it's the first one to come up. And also, if you want to find my website, you don't have to remember how to spell my name. You can just Google pro-life speaker, and it'll be the first site to come up, or conceived in rape. And I thought, oh, it would be so cool to handle one of these kinds of cases, but you'd never be able to unless you work for the Attorney General's office or the ACLU, and of course, I wouldn't be caught dead working for the ACLU. I had a professor in law school who was one of their top attorneys, and he was so proud that he had helped legalize abortion in Kentucky, which was one of the first states. And I knew his family growing up, and I knew that he had adopted his daughter shortly before Roe v. Wade. So I went up to him after class, and of course I should have done it during class, so everybody could see what this guy was really like. But I went up to him after class and I said to him, but Professor Sedler, what if your daughter had been aborted? And he just looked at me point blank without hesitation and said, well, we would have adopted someone else. How would you like to have him for a dad? You're disposable. You're replaceable. Like, it's just all about him as long as he gets to have a kid. Kind of ignores the fact that it's not so easy to adopt since there's been legalized abortion. Today, nationwide, in crisis pregnancies, only 4% choose adoption. Again, pretty cold-hearted, I think, especially when it's your own child that you're talking about. But the truth is that whenever you have a parent who says they're pro-choice, it's really the same thing. Well, I think that if I had wanted to, I should have been able to. I mean, after all, it is my body. You understand, don't you? But no need for you to worry. I wanted you. You were convenient for me at the time. You understand, don't you? How messed up is that? Like your parent is the gatekeeper of your life and get attitudes like, I brought you into this world and I can take you out too. It's not like people really get that real with their children and have those kinds of conversations, but this is the reality of it, and you wonder why so many young people don't feel valued today. But that message resonates with young people. They get it. I've had young people come up to me after speaking at school assemblies and tell me, my mom says she's pro-choice, and I said to her, well, what if I hadn't been convenient for you? What if you had been 16? Would you have aborted me? And these girls are telling me how hurtful it is for their moms to say that to them. I'm so glad that these young people get it.